Okay, so this tutorial is about the user registration which we will be using in our website. This was a special request from few people. Okay, so for firstly to make the registration system, we firstly need a database. I'm using EasyPHP as my testing server. You can use any other servers, but I find this easy. Anyways, this is my database. I'll be making a new database with the name tutorials. And I'll be making one table, let's say with the name users, and it'll have about 3 columns. I'll tell you what the 3 columns are for. So the column 1 will be the ID of the user, which is a good practice. Whenever you make a table, you should have the first column as an ID, and I don't make it a primary index. I just make it an auto increment, and the other column will be the username, which would be a type of varchar or varchar. I don't know what people pronounce that like. Okay, so the length of that will be 200 characters. You can give it anything according to your convenience. And the third column would be the password. It will also have a varchar data type, and length will be 200 characters. That'll be all, and then we can go down and save. Yeah, so we have our table users here with the columns ID, username and password. Next we need is a file. I'm using context as my text editor. Yeah, and the file I'll be using, and the first page which would be displayed is index.php. And yeah, okay. So as you can see, there's nothing on the page right now because there's nothing written here. Let's start off. First basically we'll make the HTML form of the user registration form. I assume that you are good in HTML and CSS, because I'm not going to focus on that part right now. So let's go through a rough type of HTML and CSS. Okay, there's something come up here. Okay, let's ignore that. And let's something registration, something like that. Don't mind my dog barking at the background. She's got crazy tonight. Anyways, I'll center my body. That's not a good practice to center the body. People use any other methods, but as I told you, I'm not going to focus on HTML right now. And okay, let's start with a few break tags just to bring down the form. And I'll create a form which would be submitted to the page. Register.php would be the file where the form would be submitted, and the method would be post. I'll close the form, and we first need the user to supply their username, so it would be in an input type text with a name of anything. Like I'll use username right now, and yeah, that's it. I wouldn't style it right now because we are going through the process of the method, and instead of the CSS and HTML. And then we would want the user to give their password. It will have another input type, but this one wouldn't be text like before. It will be password. That's how the text field displays dots or stars instead of letters. Okay, this is now making me crazy. Okay, and we'll give a name to it as password, and yeah, that's fine. And we'll also would want the user to click a button to submit the form, so we will create a button, input type submit. That'll be like a button, and we can name it as my button or something, anything which you like. And yeah, that's all. Let's see how our page is displayed. Okay, so we have our username, our password, and submit button. Right now we don't have a register.php page made, so it will show that there's no page like that. Let's go back and see. Okay, this is a username and password. When you write in the username, it's plain text, and when you write in password, it's dots, or it's displayed as stars in other browsers. I'm using Google Chrome now, so that's the reason we wrote remember, we wrote password as our input type. Okay, so that's fine. Now we would go to and we'll make a new file in a text editor with the name. Okay, that's a PHP file, so let's name it submit. No, it's a register.php, because that's the file to which we will be submitting our form. Make sure that both the files are in the same folder. Mine is tutorials right now, so is in PHP file. Okay, let's start in the PHP file. Firstly, we need to detect that the button has been pressed, and no user should access this page except unless they have clicked the button for register. So the button, we can make a variable with name button is equal to if set only if the button has been pressed. So okay, my button. Okay, so this my button here is the same as here. We use all the in the post variables, we use these names which are equal to the name given to our input types. So for password, we will use password. For the username, we will use username, whatever we have specified. Okay, so if the button has been pressed, then we need to do something. Okay, and if the button has not been pressed, that means someone else has just typed in the name of the page on the address bar. Like if they've seen that they know the page name, so let's just type in the page name like as it is, and if you press that, they'll get some other result which is not required. We don't want the user to see that, right? Okay, so to avoid that, we give this if the button is pressed, then we'll I'll do these functions, or else if the button is not pressed, that means the user has gone to the page by typing in the address bar. Then we want the user to head back to our index page, so we'll keep a header location index.php, and yeah, that's it. So like this will make, if a user types in the page and press enter, the script returns the user to the same page unless and until he has pressed the submit button. When he presses the submit button, he'll come to the register.php page. But if he has just typed in the name on the address bar, then he'll be jumped directly to the index page.php. Okay, I hope you understand that part. And okay, so what if the user has put in their username and password? Now we want to validate what the user has put in both these fields. we don't want our username to put our user to put any symbols and everything like that. So there are many other techniques, many other ways to validate all the fields, but I'll be using basic because I would want to show you the type and the way to register your user. So right now I'll just name a variable username, and I'll validate, and I'll just to avoid any MySQL injection, I'll use MySQL_real escape string. You can either use that, or you can either use strip slashes, and inside that HTML entities, and that'll be post2. Now this name is equal to this name, so we'll write the same thing here, close it 2 times. Okay, what's the use of using strip slashes and HTML entities? I'll show you the use of it. Let's for example, we'll take the same thing as 2 times, and let's say we just comment this line. I'll remove the let's look. What if we write it directly like this and echo it? Let's see what happens if we do that. What if a user enters something with accidentally enters a quotation mark, something like that, and submits the form? We wouldn't want that quotation mark to create problems in a database, because quotation marks are taken as some variable for the database, and when I connect the file to the database, I'll show you how it messes up your database. So anyways, I would want you to follow this way of entering your data in the database by using strip slashes, HTML entities, or the previous MySQL escape string, real_escape_string. Okay, this is the other thing would be password, and we'll do the same thing for the password too, only there'll be a little change in that, and that'll be that we would want it to encrypt some other language, MD5. I use MD5 to encrypt the password, and okay, that's and we have to change the same thing here to password. But let's check this script now, like echo username is, and we'll just concatenate that to username, and then and password is okay. Let's save that and let's run that thing here again. Okay, then let's say test, and password to be 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so whenever you submit it, the username is test and the password is something else which you have typed. That's the reason I've told you that you encrypt the password, so that no one, if they get a chance to hack your site, they don't get the real password. So MD5 is a thing which makes 1 2 3 or 5 to a big string of characters. It encrypts your password, so it saves. We would want our passwords to be saved in this format, so that when the user puts this, if someone hacks a website and he would get this password, he can't log into the site using this password, because we will decrypt it to the basic password to validate the user to log in to our website. I'll show the login system in our next tutorial. So let's move further. We want these two things to get inserted in our database. So the next thing we would do is create a new file, and this would be our database connection file. Name this as db database db, that'll be .php db.php, and we will write simple languages, simple 2 lines. That'll be mysql underscore connect, mysql underscore select underscore db. Okay, now here comes the server name. When you upload it to your web server, you would normally write localhost, but this is a my testing server, so I'll use this 127.0.1, and this is the username and that is the password for your database. So this testing server username for me is root. It may be different for you, depends on which testing server you're using, and the password for me is blank, so it's nothing. And the database which we had made is tutorials, so it's tutorials. I'll save that, just remove the few lines, extra lines here. Okay, and okay, that's the file here. We would want to include that file in our PHP file register.php, so that it has the permission to connect to our database, and it is db.php. We write the simple line include, and in brackets, quotations, double quotations, db.php is the name of the file which we want to include in this file, and yeah, that's it. So now we have the username and the password. We would want to store it in our database. To store it in our database, we have few queries which we have to pass to in order to store the variables in our database, and that'll be here. Okay, now let's insert the two things in our database. It'll be MySQL query insert into the table, insert into the table name. The table name here is users, so insert into users, then in brackets you will write all the names of the columns in single quotations. So we have 3 columns, that is ID, username and password. So the first inverted comma is ID, inverted commas close, comma, then is the username, inverted comma close, comma, and its password. Okay, and then insert into users, ID, username, password. Okay, values in brackets, same thing, but instead of the column names, we want to insert with respect to, okay, the first inverted commas is adjacent. Okay, the first thing which we would write here would get inserted into the first column name. So if we write in the first quotations, for example, if we write test here, so test, this test would be inserted in the ID column, but we don't need to insert anything in the ID column, as the ID column is on auto increment, and we don't need to insert anything. We'll just leave that blank. So in our username column, we need our username variable, and in our password column, we need our password variable. Okay, that's it, and that'll insert the username and password into your database. Let's just test that out. okay, let's give this a variable name insert. So just to check if the insertion of the variables is done, then we need to echo you are registered. Let's check that out. Okay, and okay, so presently we don't have anything in our database, it's empty. We'll write test as a username and password as 12345 when we submit. Okay, so there's nothing being displayed here. That's not the correct thing. And okay, so when you refresh the database, you don't have your data here. That means there is a little problem going on here, and we would want to see what's that. So let's just check it out. Okay, DB is this root, okay. Tutorials, okay, that is fine, that's not a problem. Okay, let's include that, and let's put an else statement here just to check if it's going wrong in the insertion. Not inserted. You will face little small problems which is not a big importance, but it's all about testing and getting to know what mistakes you make. So that's not a problem. Let's just test it out. So it's saying not inserted. That means it has come to this line, or else let's just echo our username here just to verify, and let's just comment these lines and just test it out what's the problem, and I'll let you know. These are a few problems which you will face in your site too, so you should learn these things. Okay, so we have our username come to this stage and it's not being inserted after that. Okay, so I guess this is the problem with this line. We should include the line before the query. Let's do that and see. Let's test that out. Let's refresh. Test 1 2 3 4 5. Submit. Okay, it's saying not inserted. Okay, let's just let me find the problem and come back to you. Okay, so I'm really sorry for the delay. I found the problem, and that is we don't need to put these quotations here when you are specifying the column names. So you need to remove these quotation columns here, and yeah, that's it. And okay, so the line I have added is if it has been inserted, you echo out you are registered, or else if there's a problem in inserting, it'll echo the MySQL_error. It'll show you the error, what's wrong in that thing. So you don't need to have to write this line here. It can be above too. And yeah, that's about it. Let's just there's nothing in the users column here. Let's just run this out again. Username as test and password 1 2 3 4 5 and submit, and it shows you are registered. Let's check the database. refresh the users column, and you have your first insertion in the database. The ID is automatically 1, username is test, which you have written, and the password is encrypted. So because that's the way how you insert into the database. And so now we'll move on to check how whether the user has been registered before or not. So okay, and in the index page I've not shown you the validations, such as what if the username doesn't enter anything in the users column, leaves it blank, and the password column to be blank. I assume you go through that, because I've made this tutorial basically just to show how you can get your users registered to your website. Okay, now in the register.php page, you need to add few lines just to verify whether the user which is registering with your website uses the same username again. What if there's a user with the username test, and another user comes to your website and gets himself registered as with the same username test? That wouldn't be possible, right? So when another user types in the same username, we would want the website to show him that that username has been taken. So in order to check that, we would firstly check, after fetching out the username and password, we would check whether the username has been taken or not. Check whether username is taken or not. That'll be checking is just check is equal to mysql underscore query. You pass a query, and that is select everything from users, that's the table. Select everything from users where the username is equal to, in quotes, you give the username which you have fetched, and then you run there's this number. You run a query mysql num underscore rows. This is basically, this query checks the given query in the bracket. So here we have given the query to be checked is check, and what is check? Check is equal to this query. That means this query mysql underscore num underscore rows will show the number of rows where the username is equal to the fetched username. So this number variable will show us whether how many users are there with that particular username which the user has input in the input type. So we can write an if statement, like if the number is greater than 0, that means if it's 1, 2, 3, if it's 1, it can't be more than 1, because we don't want two users to have the same username. So if it's either equal to 1, that means there is a user already with the username, then the number would be equal to 1. Then we would echo to the user, sorry, that username has been taken. Please choose another username. And then you can direct the user by giving him an anchor tag by just redirecting him to the index page again. So okay, that's there. And then else, if the username is not taken, then we'll proceed to storing the username in our database. And let's end that bracket here, and let's just test that out. what if we, okay, so there presently in the database we have one username, user with username test. So let's just again give the same username in order to see whether our script works or not. Okay, so it says sorry, that username has been taken, please choose as another username. So that's the thing. Okay, like what if we choose test2 and password as, you know, something, 1 2 3 4 5 and submit. It says you are registered. Let's come to database, refresh the database, and that's our second query there. It's test2 and the same password encrypted again. Okay, so that's how you get people registered at your website. You can add as many as columns here. Take, you know, the age of the user, the, you know, gender of the user, male or female, the, you know, the location where they live, anything what you want, it's up to you. Okay, and yeah, that's how basically it works out. And I'll probably make another tutorial on how to validate these fields, and what if a user just inputs the password instead the username, and when he clicks the button without putting the username, we would want a small div or, you know, pop up here to say tell him to fill both the forms. I'll you know, make another tutorial for that. So basically that's it. And you know, just again test that out. Test2 password something, submit. Sorry, that username has been taken. So you know, that's how it works, and I hope you understood everything. And let me know if you have any doubts. You can always contact me on my channel. Okay, so thank you.